Good evening. They've left a gavel up here for me. It's apparently a stout American white oak. So if things get unruly, I will call this room to order. Good evening. It's a great honor to be here. My sisters and I look forward to coming to this event every year. Since March of 2011, Syria... Shit. Excuse me. Good evening. And thank you for having me here tonight. It really is a great honor. Don't worry, I'm being paid significantly less than Jill to do this job. I grew up in a small town. My late Grandpa Ray was the mayor of my hometown, Manuka, Illinois. I come from a line of farmer politicians, so it's only natural that I would end up here speaking to you this evening. And the citizens of our town loved my grandfather. Whenever he addressed the townspeople, he always opened with this joke, and I thought it was appropriate. So I thought I would try to endear myself to you in a similar fashion. A bus loaded with politicians was driving down a country road when suddenly the bus ran off the road and straight into Old Pete's barn. It was a terrible accident. Old Pete got off his tractor and went to investigate the carnage, which was considerable. After some consideration, he saw no choice but to dig a large hole and bury the politicians. A few days later, the local sheriff came out, saw the crashed bus, and asked old Pete what happened to the politicians. And Pete told him he had buried them. Well, good Lord, the sheriff asked him, were they all dead? Old Pete said, well, some of them said they weren't, but you know, you never can trust a politician. I should apologize, by the way, if you were expecting my mustache. I'm with UTA and my mustache is with CAA. It's currently engaged in a Jarritos soda campaign down at the World Cup. I was very excited when I heard I'd get to meet the White House Chief of Staff, but it turns out that position has nothing at all to do with stick fighting. You know, a lot more might get done in this town if disputes were settled with a bow staff. I'm sure you all heard the news about Eric Cantor. On Tuesday, he tragically got himself a job at Fox News. He's the first House Majority Leader to lose a primary since 1899, which is also the last time we were at war with Spain. So watch yourself, Spain. Tonight's dinner celebrated Washington, D.C. itself, a city with a rich history of music and art, and diplomats getting away with vehicular homicide. Something that upsets me, though, about this gorgeous town is that D.C. residents, in fact, have to pay federal income tax despite not having a vote in Congress. We literally fought a revolution over that. It's like Massachusetts not letting straight people get married. That one requires a little math. Between the Republicans and Democrats, this city has become, let's face it, a noxious stinkhole where very little actually gets done because of the backstabbing, deceit, and greed. So I just want to thank all of you for making a Hollywood actor like myself feel welcome. Right at home. But Republicans have come around on sex education. I heard they finally decided to teach fracking in schools. Can I say that on C-SPAN? Gay marriage is now legal in Pennsylvania. In the space of just a few weeks, they got rid of their anti-gay marriage law and Michael Vick. Well done, PA. With anti-gay marriage laws toppling so easily, I'm starting to worry it's a trap. Like perhaps the Koch brothers are just distracting us while they escape on a spaceship. A giant gay spaceship. Growing up in a farm family, there were some early lessons in politics. For example, in Illinois, we had these tenacious little black beetles, indestructible. And we'd often have these big family picnics that involved frosty mugs and draft beer. And these beetles would fly straight into your beer so that if you didn't keep it covered, eventually they would all be in there for the free beer. And sincerely, these bugs were known as Democrats. Some people assume that because I'm an actor, I'm a Democrat. And other people assume that because I like to hunt and build things, I'm a Republican. I am neither. I am a proud bull moose. Teddy Roosevelt was a personal hero of mine. He was a man's man with a powerful mustache, an adventurer's spirit, and no patience whatsoever for this sort of nonsense. He probably wouldn't be a big fan of this room, to be honest. The news media speaks very loudly and does not own any sticks. But I am proud to live in a representative democracy. Congress is almost entirely made up of rich white men, just like me. I appreciate it. Speaking of them, Comcast and Time Warner are about to merge, which I think is great, because NBC is owned by Comcast, and I am contractually obligated to think that. Comcast and Time Warner Cable were just named the two most hated companies in America, which is pretty impressive, because GM basically just murdered a bunch of people, and they're not even in the top 10. You could start a company whose entire business model was to set dogs on fire, and then their owners have to pay to put them out, and they still wouldn't be as hated as Time Warner Cable. According to the Supreme Court, corporations are now considered people, which I think is great because it's always been my dream to punch Time Warner Cable in the face. Let's be honest, pretty much all of our bosses are evil. NBC is owned by Comcast, CNN is owned by Time Warner, and Fox is owned by an Australian supervillain. Happy trails to Jay Carney, the messenger we all love to shoot. And after all, Jay was, in the parlance of old racists, one of the good ones. As you are no doubt aware, Georgia has